welcome back to my video. My name is Lynn, and in today's video I'm going to talk about the 5 tips that will help you learn any language in the most quick, efficient and effective way possible. So just a bit of background about me. I speak 3 languages fluently. So I was born and raised speaking Vietnamese and Hungarian, so those are my mother tongues. Then I started learning English when I was 6, and I got IELTS score 8.5 by the time I was 17. There's a video you can watch about that topic as well. And then I also started learning French when I was 14, and within 4 years I got the DELF certification, which is the advanced French level, so the Diplôme approfondi de langue française. And I got that within 4 years. Now I am learning German, so I have a bit of experience learning different languages, and hopefully these tips will help you learn any language you want to with the most efficient ways. So with that in mind, let's move right into the tips. Now, my tip number 1 is that exposure to the target language is everything. You have to make sure that you expose yourself to the language as much as possible. So in the other video as well, I talk about how you need to listen to the radio, watch films, write your own journal, and speak to other people for you to be able to maximize that exposure. Because at the end of the day, exposure will really help you boost your language skills without needing to just sit down and study some vocabulary or grammar. That is also needed, but with learning all the languages, the practice is really important. So make sure you expose yourself to the target language as much as possible. Even in your free time, you can slightly modify some of the things you do, so you do it in your target language and you're able to speak that language much more quickly, and you are able to use that language, even if not perfectly, much earlier than if you were to just study the vocabulary and the grammar beforehand. My tip number 2 is for vocabulary. When you're starting out and even later on, I think spaced repetition methods for vocabulary learning is one of the most efficient ways for you to learn as many words as possible. Now, what is spaced repetition? Spaced repetition with flashcards mean that you use some kind of software or paper-based method to use your flashcards and review your flashcards at increasing time intervals. So just as you're about to forget them, you review them again. And usually the time intervals can be 1 minute, 10 minutes, a day, a week, a month, then a couple of months, then even a year or 2. So make sure that you use some kind of software or the Leitner method for paper-based learning for you to be able to learn the vocabulary much more efficiently and quickly. I find that the Anki software that I talk about in another video as well will really help you boost this skill, because you will be able to learn so much more vocabulary while also not having to worry about the scheduling and the logistics of things. So I really recommend you try out Anki for vocabulary learning, and a lot of people swear by this method because it is a scientifically proven tip and a scientifically proven method for you to learn the words much more quickly, and they will stick for much longer. With new vocabulary, it's also really important that you try to incorporate them into your own language. So as you're learning new vocabulary, try to use those words, because that will give you so much more practice and they will stick so much longer than if you were just to try out the flashcards on their own and not use those words in the near future. Now, my tip number 3 is to learn full sentences instead of only words. Yes, vocabulary learning is really important, but don't just rely on vocabulary learning. Many of my students who I teach English to actually complain about this thing when they feel like they hit a brick wall and they know a lot of words, but they're unable to use them, and it's really hard for them to speak and to form sentences. And the reason for this is actually because they have always learned words, and it's really difficult to try to put those words into order while you're speaking and try to think about the grammar while you're speaking. So I would suggest that you learn full sentences and then try to modify that later on once you get to a more advanced level. I always feel that this gives you a much more solid foundation for you to build the language on, because at the end of the day, you're speaking in sentences instead of words, and you're able to modify those sentences as you wish with the extra words that you learned from the vocabulary. So learning the vocabulary is not enough because it's really hard for your brain to try to process putting the words in order and using the correct grammar and using the correct vocabulary at once. So if you have these cookie cutter sentences that you can use, that will help you so much more in terms of getting coherent sentences out quite early on in your language learning career. And that will help you break through that wall that a lot of people find that they have while they're learning the language. Similarly, when you write out grammar exercises, a lot of people will tend to only fill in the word that is missing from the sentence. You know, those grammatical exercises that ask you to fill in a word. Now, that is useful in terms of practicing the grammar itself, but what I usually do is I take a notebook and I copy out the whole sentence as it is while substituting in that word. Again, that really helps you to get these into your memory, and at the end of the day, it will become much more familiar to you when you speak about a topic, or if you were trying to use a sentence structure, because you have already written it down a couple of times. And that actually leads me to my last tip, which is whatever you write down or whatever you read, try to read it out aloud. And the reason why is speaking is a form of muscle memory. And, you know, even if you're not speaking to someone, but you're speaking, you're saying the things out loud, you're pronouncing those things out loud, it will really help you to have that muscle memory of speaking in that language. So it's much less daunting when you speak to people, and it's much easier for you to actually start speaking as well, because you have already done that countless of times before, even if it was reading an article or reading out the grammar exercises. It really helps you with pronunciation as well, even if there's nobody listening, because you can make sure that you correct yourself and listen to yourself if you want to. So record yourself and listen to yourself if you want to. But at the end of the day, it will really help you to be able to train your brain to speak in that language without having to think about what you're actually saying. So I hope that these 5 tips will really help you to take your language learning to the next level and will help you to learn the languages much more efficiently, quickly, and start using that language even though you're not at an advanced level or you're not doing amazing with vocabulary or grammar. Just start speaking, start exposing yourself to the language, and with time you will be able to speak that language without any difficulties by using these tips. So make sure to comment below if you learned something new in this video, or if you have any other language learning tips you would like other people to know about. Make sure to like this video to show your support, and subscribe for more videos on university applications, career and productivity. Bye guys, see you guys in the next video.